Retail has undergone a drastic shift in recent years. The once clear divide between online and offline shopping has vanished, creating exciting opportunities but also high stake challenges. The real question isn't just about selling across multiple channels, it's about making them work in harmony. To help us decode these challenges, I'm joined by someone who knows the space inside out, and that is Jan Lim, Regional CEO, Southeast Asia and North Asia at Lenskart. To say a few words about Jan, before Lenskart, Jan spent over 7 years at Amazon, where he played a pivotal role in launching Amazon in Singapore and Malaysia. As a country leader for the Singapore marketplace business, he helped shape the full Amazon.sg and Amazon Fresh experience across web, mobile, and app, giving him first hand experience in navigating the online and offline retail landscape. Very happy to have you here today, Jan.
Thank you, Sahana. It's great to be here.
Great. So, for those of you who have managed to join us today, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's kick off this exciting conversation with Jan. Firstly, over to you, Jan. Can you tell us a bit about your journey at Lenskart and what excites you most about being the regional CEO for Southeast Asia and North Asia?
Thanks, Sahana. So firstly, welcome everybody and thank you for joining us today on this eTail Asia LinkedIn Live. As I said, my name's Jan and I'm leading the regional business for Lenskart. We're Asia's largest eyewear provider, a direct-to-consumer business. And our vision is to put our eyewear on the faces of 1 billion people by giving everybody a much more affordable corrective vision. For me, I've built my career about leveraging technology to improve people's lives and deliver better customer experience. And my particular passion and focus is really on this region, where I believe it's going to be the greatest opportunity for us to improve the lives of people on a day-to-day basis by leveraging our technology. And excited to share more about my journey and how we can maybe help other businesses together.
Great, thanks, Jan. That's really exciting. It's clear that Lenskart is on an incredible growth trajectory, and your leadership is playing a key role in shaping its success across the region. Speaking of growth, Lenskart has been expanding aggressively across multiple markets. With such rapid expansion, how do you strike the right balance between online and offline growth, ensuring one channel doesn't eat into the other? Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Sahana. So I'd first start by saying that at Lenskart, our approach isn't about choosing channels, whether it's online or offline. It's ultimately about being where the customer is. And the way we do this is by integrating that into an omni-channel experience, meaning that we are there where the customer is, we know who they are, and we're there to introduce and educate the customers mainly via online channels, but then guiding them through that discovery and consideration. When it comes to then offline then tends to work in tandem with an online experience where we can deepen that engagement with the customer. For example, with their eye tests, helping them to convert and find the right fit and giving them better post-purchase care. So for Lenskart, the focus is very much an omni-channel one, about being able to serve the customer and leveraging each channel to deliver the best possible experience. I think one thing I would also want to mention is that when you are deciding of how to deliver the optimal customer experience for your customers, you should always be very clear what role and what purpose each channel has and what advantages or maybe disadvantages that channel may have. For example, in our particular case, as an eyewear business, fit and corrective prescription are two of the most important factors. And as you can imagine, for online businesses, it's really, really hard for a customer to identify the exact fit online, even though we have multiple technologies that help them, like virtual try-on. On the flip side, it's also currently not possible to give them a full online eye test. And so that's where we need to make sure we set up our customer experience. As I mentioned, we ensure that we drive online to be that primary discovery channel and try to use that as a way to get the customer to then convert in a store. And so we create technologies and experiences, for example, for them to browse much more easily, to do a virtual try-on with their fit, and even to do an eye test appointment booking so that they have the confidence knowing that when they reach a store, they have already a booking and they don't have to wait too long to then get the right fit, prescription, and overall the right pair of glasses for their use. And so for us, I think optimizing each channel's role and ensuring that they work hand in hand in an omni-channel fashion rather than competing ultimately helps us to strengthen both acquisition as well as loyalty.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jan. You mentioned the importance of knowing which channel offers a superior experience for different product types. Have you noticed any regional differences in how customers engage with Lenskart's online versus offline offerings?
Absolutely. I think inherently there's always going to be differences, firstly, based on the particular market's digital maturity. I think, for example, in Southeast Asia or even in India, our home market, digital adoption and mobile adoption is extremely high. And what we see, though, is that there's a great correlation between not only that digital adoption, but also the brand trust and the amount of time the brand has been in the market. So, for example, where we have the highest online share is typically in those markets where both online penetration is high, but also the brand has been around for many more years. For example, like I said, India tends to lead the way there. Singapore follows closely. But then our other markets, which are slightly newer, we see that online penetration tends to be slightly lower because customers maybe are not as used to the brand or maybe haven't been able to identify that fit or that comfort. And so they still prefer to go to an offline store. But however, what we do find is that the online channel ultimately is a great indicator for a customer to discover, but also to engender loyalty, because we see that over 70% of our online customers tend to be those repeat customers. And it is great for ensuring that a customer stays within the ecosystem and also remains loyal to the brand.
Okay, wonderful. So overall, it's a really thoughtful strategy, and it's not just about having both online and offline channels. So it's about making them work together in a way that enhances the overall customer journey. Your approach to eye test bookings, virtual try-ons, and incentives is a great example of how brands can drive synergy instead of competition between channels. So building on to that, how does Lenskart further differentiate the in-store and online experience to ensure they truly complement each other rather than compete?
Thanks for the question. So I think more often than not, a lot of brands start to go down the route of differentiation. I would actually prefer to start talking about what should remain the same. Ultimately, the first thing to align on as a brand is you need to decide what are the non-negotiable items that will remain consistent for a customer, regardless of whether it's online or offline or any other channel. This is usually the surefire way to break customer trust if you start to create differentiated pricing, for example, or different customer experience or delivery experience or return experience. If you say that somebody who buys online has a different or more complex experience than somebody who buys offline. Pricing in particular tends to be the most important one. Yeah, I think it's very easy, and you always see a lot of brands choose to, for example, make online cheaper. Maybe because they'll say it's on a marketplace or some other. But again, I would argue that that's a surefire way to break customer trust in the long term. So remembering that, number one, pricing, customer experience, and consistency should always remain the constants. Now, when it comes to that differentiation, because again, you should always recognize what is it about your customer experience that is different from online versus offline. And if I refer to our business, for example, fit and prescription tends to be a bit of a challenge. What we found is that it's our key value proposition is the buy one, get one free of our glasses, where a customer can walk in and get 2 frames for just 100 Singapore dollars. Now, this is something that a customer finds quite easy to avail offline, because in a store you can try on multiple frames and get that fit exactly like you want and the look. However, we found that online, it is quite hard for a customer to choose 1 frame, let alone even 2 frames for them to purchase and take home. And so what we do is we actually try to encourage a customer online to give them an option of buying just 1 frame. We found that that significantly improves the checkout and the conversion experience, firstly. Secondly, we also try to nudge them towards using some of our trust building tools, for example, like the virtual try-on. To give you a statistic, for the online try-on and virtual try-on, a customer tends to be 3 times more likely to purchase And that purchase may happen offline or online because the AR try-on tends to be a great trust builder with a customer. And so for us, rather than differentiate, what we try to do is highlight the customer experience to be slightly more optimized for an online conversion versus an online conversion. And we make sure that the customer experience on the core non-negotiables of pricing, delivery, and customer experience are always remaining the same to keep a high bar for customers in the long term.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jan. So the online exclusive clearance strategy actually makes a lot of sense. Have you ever had to adjust strategies based on customer feedback?
Oh, yes. In fact, I would say every day. Our business that is not listening to their customers and adapting their strategies is one that I think will not survive in the long term. I think to be a leading brand today, you need to be very customer obsessed, and the opportunities and avenues for a customer to actually get their feedback to you just become easier and easier. In our case, for example, we highly leverage our NPS scoring methodology or Net Promoter Score, which I think most brands are familiar with. We actively track this and get the scores from our customers. And I'm proud to say in most of our markets, we're above 70, which is tends to be a market leading score. But not only do we rest on the fact that we have a high score, we actively pursue and drill down on what are those reasons for customer detractors. What are those reasons that customers are giving us a low score? How can we actually get more customers to give us promoters? And so, for example, we often get customer complaints, for example, about maybe a particular style, particular frame. If it breaches a certain point, we actively seek to remove that from purchase so that it doesn't deteriorate the customer experience. And so rather than talking about one, I would say we're actually doing it almost on a daily basis.
Got it. Got it. Great. And we would also love to hear how this plays out in action further. I mean, could you also share a case where a particular strategy has helped drive synergy rather than cannibalization across channels?
Sure. Again, thinking about the online versus offline, kind of channel prioritization or cannibalization question, we actually try to, I said, deliver an omni-channel experience and seek to ensure that our channels ultimately enhance overall customer experience and engender greater long-term loyalty. So the example I'd share is actually twofold. It's primarily with our membership scheme as well as our cashback mechanism. So one thing we decided to do was make sure that the way to use your membership was via the mobile app. We made this as a conscious choice, even though that meant that an offline customer had to download the app. Now, the reason for this is because what we find is an app customer tends to be 3 times more likely to stay loyal, as well as convert in future. That was the first reason. The second reason also is we tried to create a much more carrot-based approach rather than stick-based approach for a customer to use it. Because, there was a time that a customer may say, hey, I'm just buying offline. Why do I need your app? What we did last year is we introduced a store-based cashback mechanism where every time a customer purchases with Lenskart with their membership, they get a 5% cashback they can use on the next purchase. What we did was integrate that experience into the app so that a customer also is incentivized to download the app and use that to track their cashback earned, and then also to redeem that cashback leveraging the app either via offline or online channels. Now, bringing this has meant that we were able to drive significantly better lifetime customer value and also ensure that our channels ultimately are working hand in hand. And what we're seeing so far is that a customer is more likely to engage with us offline if they are also using our online channels.
Okay, awesome. That's in fact, indeed a great example, and it's interesting how you emphasize looking beyond single transactions and instead focusing on the bigger picture, like how each touch point contributes to a stronger customer relationship. One area where technology is playing a big role in shaping these touch points is AR-powered try-on. Lenskart has invested, I believe, heavily in this technology. Has it helped reduce friction between digital and physical shopping, or does it pose a risk to store footfall? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So, I first say that technology is at the heart of everything we do at Lenskart. We've ultimately been one of the first pioneers that leveraged technology across all aspects of our business to help bring lower prices and greater accessibility to customers across Asia. And one of the technologies that you mentioned is the AR, or augmented reality try-on, that enables us to give you a virtual fit look of glasses on your face. And as I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, one of the key benefits we see is that while it doesn't necessarily drive better online direct conversion, i.e., where a customer uses it and immediately buys online, what we see is that it's a critical touch point in actually driving better customer trust and loyalty. Because we see that any customer who just engages with the AR try on somehow has greater trust in the brand and greater confidence, and they are 3 times more likely to convert as a whole across all channels. That may be online, but also more often it's still taking place offline because they're seeing that they're able to trust the technology and the fit. And when they go to the store and they see that the fit is very similar to the virtual one, it engenders that great trust. So that's the first thing I see where technology is really complementing both channels. The second area I talk about is our key investment in a AI and machine learning based Tango Eye system. So the business is called Tango, and basically it enables us to use AI across our CCTV in the store to manage and track customer footfall and conversion. The benefit of this was we were able to deploy this at scale across over our 2,000 plus stores, enabling us to better track how many customers are walking in, how many of them are being served, how quickly they're being served, and whether the store is optimally designed for that flow of footfall within there. And it's been one of the best investments we've made. And the business itself is actually scaling to even other businesses beyond even Lenskart as a separate unit within our company.
Wonderful. And has these technologies helped Lenskart better understand customer behavior and optimize the in-store experience?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, for example, one of the things we always track is when we use, for example, our Tango Eye system, we do what is called heat map measurement. So, when we set up a new store, we always, have, for example, have a particular view of what's the flow. Customer walks in, maybe they view a few frames, and then they walk towards a staff member to get assistance. We actively use this to understand which of the frames a customer tends to be purchasing more of and browsing around, and which ones they're browsing less of. It enables us to, for example, remove bottlenecks within a store if people tend to congregate around an area. We using this has helped us to understand whether a store, for example, needed more seating or maybe needed more product selection because we noticed that a customer was either not finding what they wanted or walked out. And doing this with 2,000 stores can be challenging, but thanks to this technology, we have been able to do this significantly at scale.
Okay, great. So it's clear that Lenskart is making remarkable strides in leveraging technology to bridge the gap between online and offline shopping experiences. With that in mind, looking at the bigger picture, if you had to give one piece of advice to retailers who are struggling with channel conflict, what would it be?
I'd really always start with customer experience. I think you've heard me mention it many times in this discussion that we've had, but it's ultimately that. I would say a brand needs to first define and decide what is the optimal customer lifetime experience that you want to deliver, agnostic of channel. For example, which products do you expect as your entry point for a customer to come into your business? How frequently are you expecting that or designing your experience for them to purchase? How are you expecting them to leverage that customer relationship? Do you want them to share with their family, their friends? How do you want them to engage with you as a brand moving forward, whether that's social media? Do you want to leverage a promoter effect? Do you want them to repeat or resupply? You need to really understand what is that full end-to-end experience you want to deliver to a customer, let's say over the first 1 to 2 years. Once you've done that, then I think you can very clearly define how you want to serve that customer. For example, which channels do you need to activate that optimal customer experience? Do I need many, many stores, or do I believe I can do this entirely online, for example? When you've decided that, what tools or software do you think you can actually leverage so that you can do this at scale and without having to incur significantly higher costs, right? For example, when you use the right technologies, you're able to significantly scale your experience. For example, we use a lot of online and digital advertising that enables us to really scale our marketing efforts. And avoiding a lot of these mistakes can help you also avoid big one-off costs, and especially using SaaS-based solutions, and ensures that you're able to scale your costs with your business and not be faced with very costly upfront one-offs. And I think together, by, like I said, going to the customer experience you want to deliver, mapping that out step by step, and then executing that with the right channels, you will be able to be one step closer to success. And you'll probably not get it right the first time, but the point is you start with a vision, and then you can continue to listen to your customers, take that feedback, and optimize that experience for them.
Okay, that's a really great piece of advice. Thanks, Jan. And I think we have come to the end of the discussion. Thank you for those invaluable insights, Jan. But that's not it. Now let's open it up to our audience. If you have got any questions for Jan, those who have managed to join us today, please feel free to drop them in the comments or use the Q&A function. We would love to hear your thoughts and dive into some more discussions. So let me see if we have questions that we have received so far. So we have a question here. This talks about omnichannel strategies are crucial for creating seamless customer experiences, and insights from successful companies like Lenskart are invaluable. I'm interested in understanding how technology stacks and cultural shifts within an organization can support this transformation. How can companies balance the need for technological innovation while maintaining a consistent brand voice across all channels? So yeah, if you can take that, yeah.
Thanks for the question. So I would say it's a pretty common question that is on the minds of many business owners and business leaders. I think it's very easy to have a feeling of FOMO, fear of missing out in the age of AI that we're in. But the funny thing is about technology and leveraging, advanced technologies like AI is it's ultimately a solution or a tool to solve a problem. What I tend to find is that a lot of leaders tend to jump to the solution, which is technology and AI, without being clear on the problem that they want to solve. For example, they'll say, wow, my competitor is using this new Gen AI tool. I definitely have to use it. And so they go through this lengthy and costly example of adopting all of this, but they don't know how they want to use it or what they want to do. So I think the first thing first is a brand needs to be very clear. What problems are top of my mind? What things do I need to solve? For example, one of the most common ones I see is how can I market to my customers better, right? But a brand that says they want to adopt a lot of these marketing technologies, but they haven't set up their advertising structures correctly. They haven't got the right, floodlight tags or anything in their business or their Facebook pixel to actually make sure that they're able to track and measure their marketing ROI. This is one example I can think of where I've spoken to many brands and others who are quickly jumping, 3-4 steps ahead of their evolution without actually addressing the fundamentals of maybe let me start by focusing in, am I happy with my marketing ROI? Am I getting the right return on my investments? Am I getting the right customer acquisition cost that makes it sustainable? And if I'm not, what are the things I need to adopt to solve that? And I think when you start firstly with the right problem that you want to solve, whether it's a growth problem, an efficiency problem, maybe it's a scaling problem, you will then be able to then decide what are the specific technologies I can adopt to solve it. Because I think once you're clear on that, the technology adoption and the solution will ultimately be there ready for you and will solve that.
Great. Thanks, Jan, for taking that. So we have got one more question. The next one is on what are the biggest lessons in maintaining price parity and preventing channel cannibalization across markets? How do you see AI and automation optimizing this balance in the future?
So when it comes to maintaining price parity and preventing channel cannibalization, I think there is always the tendency to believe that you can create some sort of segmentation that enables you to kind of have your cake and eat it. The idea being that, okay, maybe I can lower the price today, let's say on an online channel, and my offline channel customers will not notice. I'm sorry to say that having done this for more than 10 years, it tends not to be the case because everything on the internet or anything you are putting out there as a marketing communication tends to always be saved as a living record of all the different actions you've done. And smart consumers, which many of them are nowadays, will tend to do a simple little search of when was the last sale, when was the last deal, or how much was a particular item at a point in time. And they'll very quickly understand that you have a very inconsistent pricing structure. And now maybe a customer may not realize that today, but they'll certainly realize it tomorrow. And there's nothing worse than a customer who's then purchased something only to realize it became cheaper the next day or the week later via another channel. So the first thing I would really want to say is don't go down that path of trying to make these different pricing segments across channels, because it tends not to be very sustainable. The second thing I would say is that AI and automation definitely will bring this further ahead, because what will happen is that it will apply to both sides. AI will start to make a consumer's purchasing journey much more efficient. For example, when I was at Amazon, there was actually a tool that was offered called Camel, that basically was a live price tracker of every single item that was on Amazon, right? So for every technology that Amazon may want to leverage, you can be sure that on the customer side, somebody else will see an opportunity to monetize that, and you do the exact same thing and create a live price tracker. And you can imagine, when you have a live price tracker, a customer can very clearly see whether they're actually getting a great deal or not, and can time their purchasing. So AI and automation will ultimately help brands to improve their pricing strategies, but it will also make it more transparent for a customer to see that. And so I would encourage all brands to ultimately be clear on your strategy, be very consistent and deliberate about how you want to say your pricing, and try to avoid situations where you create different pricing for different channels and segments.
Awesome. Thanks, Jan. I think we have got a few more questions. Maybe we can take two more. So over here, we have this question on how popular is your 3D try on? And do you have an app where your customers can remotely try out and see which frames suit them?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is our 3D try-on is a very popular, feature. It's one of the core things that makes us stand out to a customer. I can't reveal the exact percentage utilization, but only can tell you it is very high. Currently, we don't have an app where customers can so-called remote try-on. I think maybe what you're alluding to is, can a customer maybe use an app to receive certain frames and do a home try on? We have done that a few times in India, but what we found is that, at least for a small market like Singapore, where we're able to get significant customer reach via our offline store network, we're finding that it's a much more efficient process. Rather than for a customer to order some frames to try on at home and remotely, we'll simply try to direct them to a store. Because more often than not, the first thing that they need to figure out is not whether they want to buy new glasses, but has my prescription changed? We're in a market where over 80% of people unfortunately need corrective vision. And so actually our focus is very much on their health and recommending a product that they need. And so we always try to make sure when a customer walks in the store, the first thing we do is say, hey, would you like an eye test? And that usually becomes the key trigger of whether a customer needs to consider something new.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks for taking that. I think, yeah, we have got time for one more question. So the next question is from Pirapong C. And his question is, we tend to forget about operational execution in Omnichannel. How does Lenskart manage this with its retail staff in terms of training and SOPs?
Great point. I would say operational execution is critical to any business success. For Lenskart, when to your question specifically on retail staff, we do this by creating a market-leading training academy. So at Lenskart, we created something called Lenskart Academy, which enables us to deliver training at scale. We decided to invest in a dedicated optician and optom trainer who is there to actually create the right training environment where every new employee goes through standardized training and SOPs on how they can operate and run a store, serve a customer, or manage the technology that we use in our stores. We also regularly do in-store trainings and follow-ups, because while it's easy to do it en masse in a particular training room environment, we feel there's nothing like the in-store live training experience. And so we double down on that with follow-up trainings and also retraining and recertification throughout their whole lifetime with us.
Great. Thanks, Jan. I think that should be all with the audience questions. And for everyone tuning in today, I really hope you enjoyed this session. Once again, thanks a lot, Jan. And there's more to come. If you want to listen to Jan further, Jan will be joining us at eTail Asia, Asia's premier e-commerce and digital marketing retail summit, scheduled for 14th and 15th of May at the Aquarius Hotel Sentosa in Singapore. And I'm now passing it over to Jan again to share a sneak peek.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. And as Nana mentioned, I'd love for you to join us on the 14th and 15th of May, where I'll be speaking at two sessions on the first day. Firstly, it's about transitioning from growth at all costs to profitable growth, helping you understand how consumers and leaders can envision the future and how we can actually look at balancing the dichotomy between that push for growth, but also maintaining sustainable, scalable businesses. The second session I'll be also participating in is about cross-border e-commerce, where we will be talking a bit more about how you can scale your operations across different countries and able to build teams which are capable of delivering on that ambition. Look forward to seeing you there.
Yes, we are looking forward to it as well. And once again, a big thank you to you, Jan, for sharing your expertise with us today. It's been a truly enlightening discussion on how Lenskart is navigating the complexities of omnichannel retail, from leveraging technology to fostering seamless customer experiences. And I'm sure many of you will take away valuable lessons that can be applied to your own businesses. If you missed any part of today's session or would like to revisit it, don't worry, you can still catch the full interview on demand. And one more thing, if you also wish to attend eTail Asia this May, you can get your ticket for eTail Asia with the promo code for a 10% discount, eTail Asia 10, as you can see on the screen. And also be sure to follow eTail Asia and Australia's LinkedIn page if you want to stay up to date with the e-commerce and digital marketing retail industry. Once again, thank you, Jan, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. And we will see you next time. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.